So I told you that when a virtual service receives a request, it finds the virtual operation matching the request. Now to find the operation, virtual service will analyze various request properties. That request property will be get, put, post, endpoint, query string, path param, all those. Now the exact algorithm depends on service type, SOAP, because request packet will depend on what is the protocol that you are using. Now check the requested resource path in URL. REST virtual service will check the request type, that is get, post or something, and the URL path. Yesterday we discussed about URL pattern, that is nothing but URL path. In case of JMS, it will check for JMS session and the destination, whether it is topic or it is queue. So first thing is, when virtual service receives a request, it will first identify the operation which it has to invoke from that particular service, and that is based on incoming request properties. Now I'll assume that fine, my virtual service has identified which operation. After identifying the operation, it needs to select the response for the incoming request. Yesterday's case study, we had multiple different JSON files which were response, and we have stuffed them for a particular request, URL pattern, method, and path param. It's the same thing here. After your virtual service will find the operation, it will try to select the response for the incoming request. So now this service, will select a response which is based on dispatch settings you specify for the operation. How we have specified that? We have specified that by configuring our mock. And finally, the choice is based on request parameter, request content, or in other way. So my virtual service receives the request, finds the operations, maps it with the appropriate response. This is what is something which you need to remember. Now, in certain cases, you'll find that it is not always response. It is also forwards. You remember response code 300, which means forward. Now, a virtual service can also forward a request to some live web service, receive a response, and transfer it back to the request sender. You can do orchestration here. That is, it can act as a transparent proxy between the client and your live server. And this process is what is called as routing, or more precisely request routing. You can configure your virtual service to route all the requests or only some of them, depending on your need. I have shown you a diagram where we had a proxy. It was making call to actual service, and wherever needed, it was making call to your virtual service. So it's the same thing, but yes, more comprehensive, more powerful, simplified, configurable. No or little development is needed. You need to just know about specifications. And once you're aware about specifications, you'll be able to quickly ask your Ready API to create a virtual service. Now, as a virtual service engineer, you can say what all I can edit. So this I took so that you understand, that what all are the things that you will get on the editor. You see, virtual SOAP service, received 0, sent 0. This is what is the endpoint. Setup, behavior, transaction log, auth for authorization, data source, and coverage. So behavior, settings for simulating error connection, bandwidth, and server performance. Transaction log displays the simulation results. Auth, settings for simulating authorization. Data source, set up data source that the virtual service will use. Coverage settings. It is applicable only in SOAP. So something similar you will get, basis which you can have better control over your virtualized service.